Welcome to another edition of Late Night Wire Wrapping. I'll be your host, Mr. Late Night Wire Wrapper, and we're going to take some 18 gauge silver. We're going to do an oldie but a goodie. Now, many of you who've been with this channel for many months, maybe more than a year, would have seen this design many times. So if you're bored of this design, you can feel free to tune into another video, of course still on this channel, because the scientific physics dictate that any other videos on any other channel are really not that good. So stick within this channel and watch some other videos. But if you have never seen this design before, then you will find this quite exciting, I am sure. So without further ado, let's take this is 18 gauge silver plated copper, non-tarnish, supposedly. As long as you don't scratch the coating, this stuff will never need to be polished. Okay, let's take ourselves about 2 whole feet, a little over 2 feet. That's about 2/3 of a meter. And this is a drilled stone. It's a beautiful blue agate. Do you see it? Gaze upon its wonders. See how it's drilled straight through top to bottom, and that makes this particular wrap much easier. And it also has a fairly large hole, so it can take the 18 gauge. Always check first to make sure your stone can take whatever gauge you're using. So right now we're bringing it to the very middle of the wire, and that's done by bringing it to the middle. So now we're just going to give it a bend and give it a bend. Beautiful, if I do say so. At the top here, we're going to make our top loop, which will be part of the bail. Now, this new silver is a little bit not as smooth. I say this in a lot of videos, so you got to go slow and gentle with it if you want a nice curve. If you try to move too quickly, you'll end up with a sharp corner. That was not what you intended. And we can use our round nose a little bit. It's not always necessary. Sometimes it's helpful. Get the loop to the size you want. And let's see, that's about good. And then I'm going to wrap this completely around the loop one time, tightly. Okay, now that loop is not bending the way I want to just yet, but that's no problem. We could fix that at any moment, but it's basically, there we go. It's a little better. We'll tweak it a little more in a minute. Okay, now let's come down. This guy's going to fold up this way, and this guy's going to fold down this way. Give him a nice curve. Sometimes you got to force the curve with this wire when it's a little harder and a little bit less smooth, like some of the copper. All right, so we're going to do a swirl. Where are we going to put the swirl? I like to put it in this little corner here. It just makes me happy. There's something about jewelry when it's asymmetrical that adds an extra layer of beauty. Isn't it funny? If we had our choice, we would make things symmetrical, thinking that that's how it should be done. You know, you look at most buildings, skyscrapers and everything, very symmetrical. And yet in nature, almost nothing is symmetrical, and it adds to the beauty. It just adds to the beauty. And things are not perfect. The little imperfections all around just add so much character. So see, I got that sharp corner right there. I'm trying to uncorner it. Just flatten it out. I don't want a sharp corner there. I'm trying to make it a smoother loop. So anyway, I was wrapping these around and around, and that's how I got that little swirl. You can keep swirling it and swirling it bigger and bigger, but I'm happy with this much. Now I'm going to roll. I'm going to make these guys come up like that, and then I'm going to fold them tightly around the back like this. And then in the back here, this is a little trick I learned that I taught myself. I'm going to twist them twice, and that kind of holds their spot much better than just going straight across, especially on a slippery round type of stone. And now where am I going to come across here? Right from the bottom. I'm going to come right up, just beautiful curves. These curves are coming out very nicely. I'm going to bring the wire together right here and give it a little loop. And That is a nice loop, but I want my loop to be a little tighter. So I'm going to roll it. I'm going to try to roll it. This wire is very hard. There we go. Push it with my thumb and roll it. There we go. Much better, much better. And I'm going to try to squeeze in one more teeny tiny loop before I get back to the top. And before we go any further, let's make this loop just the way we want it. If you get a corner there, you can flatten it with your flat nose pliers. Believe it or not, you can get rounder loops by messing with your flat nose pliers than with your round nose. Your round nose are only good usually up until that base. Once you get a fatter circle than that base, you got to use other methods. Some people will put like a marker in there or something, but I find the loop will make itself if you just flow with it. And then if you still have some issues, your flat nose can actually get rid of them. They can actually squeeze them out if you're careful and you apply it just right. See, that's a very nice loop, I think. Anyway, let's see if we can get one more. We want this last little loop to go the opposite way. So this went this way, and now we're going to curl around this way. Alternating loops are very beautiful. They look kind of like a tapestry, kind of like, if you do them right, sometimes they look like a little leafy vine type thing, sort of, something like that. Now this wire is not cooperating. It is very fighting me. So I'm going to bring in this round nose pliers and try to roll this loop a little tighter there. There we go. That looks better. Now bring in the flat nose because I want them to be kind of next to each other, not popping over each other like they'll tend to do if you're not careful. And now the question is, do we come straight up to the loop or do we go across? Which side do we come around? I want to try to come around this side. Let's see, even now I'm getting these sharp corners that are not exactly what I want, but I'm not going to be a super perfectionist. I'll let it go at this. Push these down a little tighter, roll it a little tighter, and we're done. We're going to wrap this around the loop, pretend it's a face, and we're giving it a scarf. I call this scarfing it. And we stack stack the windings around like that until we feel like we've come around enough times, and then we cut it halfway across the loop like this. So we have these little tabs that we can tuck in. Now these tabs are good. I'm going to be a stickler and cut it a little bit tighter. Cut each one because 18 gauge is pretty tough these days. Okay, now we're going to pinch these in towards the bowl made by the scarf. Pinch them in until they're like in the middle. And then we're going to pinch them down into the bowl. And that way the sharp ends disappear, never to scratch anybody, never to unwind the piece forever. I'm going to adjust this, make it just the way we want. And again, this is a pattern I do many, many, many times over. And you know why? First of all, once you do it a bunch of times, it's very easy. On a smaller stone, I'll literally just make a swirl, come around, come across the back, and come straight up to the top. And that's it. That's all I need on a smaller teardrop like this. But on this bigger one, this one is like it's like 1.5 inches this way and 2 inches almost from here to the top of the loop. On a bigger one like this, you can put a little more decorative pattern. And then you can play around with, getting these curves just the way you want them to be. Sometimes you might want to pull one of them down a little more, make it a little more interesting, like separate them a little more. I'll spend half my time just playing with these curves to get them just right. But I'm not a perfectionist in this case. I'm not stressing over it. I'm enjoying the process. I like, with a simple press, you can move the wire slightly more where you want it to be. Now in the past, I used to take very thin wire and wrap it here and then pull it up to the top and wrap it there to better secure this so it doesn't get snagged. But with 18 gauge, and especially with doing this twist here, it's really strong, really secure. It'd be almost impossible for that to just accidentally get knocked out unless somebody really tried to pull it out on purpose. And why would anybody do that? Unless the stone, of course, was insulting you behind your back, which these feisty little buggers are known to do. You got to not turn your back on them. You got to keep an eye on them. But in any case, let's finish this up. People say, why don't you turn this a quarter turn so you can put your chain or your cord through it? Because I like to put a bunch of jump rings and let that be my bail, because it adds an extra dimension and then it mirrors the scarf too. It's just my style, but I find it looks very good. Let me show you. These are 8mm jump rings, and I love them very much. I like the look of this little guy. He is so pretty, or she, or whatever. Okay, so you guys have a wonderful night, and feel free to copy this design or embellish it in any way you like, because that is the whole point of watching the channel, is for us to learn from each other. Until next time, you guys get your little sleepy pies on, and remember to keep making art. Good night.